For generations, children have dreamed of unicorns as magical horses with flowing manes and spiral horns. The reality was somewhat different until paleontologists have recovered fossils that confirm these creatures were very real and very formidable. The Siberian unicorn was indeed a real creature that lived alongside early humans across Eurasia. This prehistoric beast was built like a tank covered in coarse fur, designed for survival in harsh climates rather than granting wishes to pure-hearted maidens. The Siberian unicorn stomped across the steppes of Russia and Central Asia until relatively recently in geological terms, possibly surviving until as recently as 29,000 years ago. The horn alone could reach lengths of over 6 feet, making it a formidable weapon for both defense and territorial disputes. DNA analysis has even revealed that these ancient unicorns were more closely related to modern rhinos than horses, which explains their robust build and aggressive temperament. The discovery completely reframes how we understand the persistence of unicorn legends across diverse cultures. These weren't purely imaginary creatures born from human creativity. They were based on actual encounters with real animals that left such a powerful impression on early human societies that the memory persisted long after the creatures themselves went extinct. Moving from legendary creatures to legendary women, we encounter another myth that scholars dismissed for centuries until evidence forced them to reconsider. The Amazon warriors of Greek mythology were described as a fierce nation of female fighters who could match any male hero in combat. They were portrayed as skilled archers and horsewomen who lived in a society where women held all the power and made all the military decisions. For most of recorded history, these accounts were treated as pure fantasy. Classical scholars assumed the Greeks had invented the Amazons as a literary device to explore themes about gender roles and civilization. The idea that entire societies of warrior women actually existed seemed preposterous to historians who couldn't imagine women taking such prominent roles in ancient warfare. Then archaeologists began excavating burial sites in the Eurasian steppes, particularly in areas that corresponded to ancient Scythian territories. What they discovered revolutionized our understanding of ancient gender roles and military organization. Grave after grave contained the remains of women buried with weapons, armor, and the clear signs of lives spent in combat. These weren't ceremonial weapons placed symbolically with female remains. Chemical analysis of the bones revealed the distinctive wear patterns that come from years of drawing heavy war bows. Skeletal evidence showed healed battle wounds, including injuries from arrows, swords, and blunt force trauma that could only have come from active participation in warfare. The most compelling discoveries came from elite burial mounds, where women were interred with elaborate weapon sets, horse gear, and golden ornaments that marked them as military leaders rather than mere foot soldiers. These female warriors weren't exceptions or anomalies. In some Scythian cemeteries, nearly 40% of the weapon-bearing burials belonged to women. Carbon dating placed these warrior women in exactly the time and place that Greek historians claimed to have encountered Amazon societies. The geographical correlation was too precise to be coincidental. The Greeks hadn't invented the Amazons as a mythological concept. They had encountered real societies where women fought as equals alongside men, and in some cases, led entire military campaigns. The revelation forced historians to completely reconsider classical accounts of gender roles in ancient warfare. Rather than dismissing Amazon legends as patriarchal fantasies about dangerous women, scholars now recognize them as accurate ethnographic observations about cultures that organize military society very differently from Greek city-states. But perhaps no discovery has been more shocking than the revelation that ancient Greek civilization possessed computational technology that wouldn't be seen again for over 1,000 years. The Antikythera mechanism was recovered from a Roman shipwreck off the coast of Greece in 1901, but its true nature remained hidden for decades under layers of marine corrosion. When researchers finally managed to examine the device using advanced imaging technology, they discovered something that shouldn't have been possible. Inside the corroded bronze casing was a complex system of over 30 interlocking gears arranged in a sophisticated analog computer designed to predict astronomical events with remarkable precision. The mechanism could track the movements of the sun, moon, and known planets. It could predict solar and lunar eclipses decades in advance. It incorporated the complex mathematical relationships governing celestial mechanics that modern science didn't rediscover until the work of Kepler and Newton. The level of mechanical sophistication required to manufacture such precise gearing wouldn't be achieved again until the development of clockwork in medieval Europe. What makes the discovery even more extraordinary is the mathematical knowledge embedded in the device. The gear ratios use approximations of irrational numbers that demonstrate an understanding of advanced mathematical concepts. The mechanical solutions to astronomical calculation problems show engineering principles that anticipate developments in precision mechanics by centuries. The implications are staggering. Someone in ancient Greece possessed knowledge of planetary mechanics, differential gearing, and precision manufacturing that represents a level of technological achievement completely lost to history. The device suggests that classical civilization reached heights of scientific and engineering sophistication that we're only beginning to appreciate. Recent analysis has revealed that the mechanism originally contained even more functions than initially understood. Advanced imaging has shown traces of additional gear trains that could track the positions of all known planets and predict their future locations with accuracy that rivals modern astronomical software. The mystery deepens when we consider that this level of knowledge appears to have vanished completely from the historical record. No other ancient devices show similar complexity. The mathematical principles required to build the mechanism seem to have disappeared without leaving any trace in subsequent Greek scientific literature. It's as if someone with modern knowledge of astronomy and precision engineering appeared in the ancient world, created this remarkable device, and then vanished, taking their advanced understanding with them. The Antikythera mechanism stands as bronze testimony to the possibility that our understanding of ancient technological capabilities is fundamentally incomplete. These discoveries represent just the beginning of a pattern that emerges when we examine historical claims with fresh eyes and better technology. Time and again, we find that what previous generations dismissed as impossible mythology was actually sophisticated knowledge preserved in accounts that we simply weren't ready to understand. The implications extend far beyond individual historical corrections. These revelations suggest that human civilization has achieved remarkable heights of knowledge and capability multiple times throughout history, only to lose those achievements and have them forgotten until archaeological evidence forces us to acknowledge what our ancestors actually accomplished. The revelation that our ancestors possessed a knowledge we've only recently rediscovered becomes even more disturbing when we examine the systematic suppression of evidence that challenges conventional historical narratives. What emerges is a pattern of deliberate ignorance, where inconvenient discoveries are quietly filed away or dismissed rather than acknowledged for what they represent. Consider the case of advanced surgical procedures that supposedly didn't exist until modern medicine developed the necessary tools and techniques. For decades, medical historians insisted that complex operations like brain surgery were impossible before the development of sterile environments and precision instruments. The idea that Stone Age humans could perform successful neurosurgery seemed absurd to experts who understood the delicate nature of cranial procedures. Then archaeologists began finding skulls that told a different story entirely. These weren't isolated discoveries or ambiguous evidence. Site after site revealed prehistoric human remains, showing clear signs of trepanation, the deliberate removal of sections of skull bone through drilling, cutting, or scraping techniques. What made these discoveries extraordinary wasn't just the evidence of surgery, but the proof that patients had survived these procedures. The bone growth patterns around surgical sites showed unmistakable signs of healing that could only occur in living patients. Some individuals had survived multiple operations, with skull modifications that healed completely between procedures. The surgical precision demonstrated in these ancient operations rivals anything achieved by modern neurosurgeons, despite being performed with stone tools and no understanding of bacterial infection. Medical analysis revealed that these prehistoric surgeons had developed sophisticated techniques for accessing the brain without causing fatal damage to surrounding tissue. They understood anatomy well enough to avoid critical blood vessels and had mastered procedures for controlling bleeding during operations. Most remarkably, they had achieved survival rates that suggest these weren't desperate last resort procedures, but routine medical interventions performed by skilled practitioners. The implications shatter our assumptions about the progression of medical knowledge. These weren't primitive attempts at healing that occasionally succeeded by accident. They were refined surgical techniques that required generations of accumulated knowledge and practice to perfect. Someone in the Stone Age had developed medical expertise that we assumed was impossible without modern scientific understanding. But the suppression of inconvenient evidence extends beyond individual discoveries to entire civilizations that were systematically erased from mainstream historical narratives. The most striking example involves a Bronze Age superpower that controlled Mediterranean trade routes and possessed naval technology that shouldn't have existed for centuries. For generations, scholars dismissed Plato's account of Atlantis as pure philosophical allegory, a fictional civilization created to illustrate points about political organization and moral decay. The detailed descriptions of advanced architecture, sophisticated metallurgy, and maritime engineering were treated as fantasy elements designed to make the story more compelling rather than historical observations. Recent archaeological evidence has revealed that Plato's account corresponds with disturbing accuracy to the Minoan civilization of ancient Crete and the catastrophic volcanic eruption that destroyed their maritime empire. The eruption of Thera, modern Santorini, represents one of the most devastating natural disasters in recorded human history, an explosion that literally blew apart an entire island and triggered massive tsunamis across the Mediterranean. The Minoan civilization that this disaster obliterated possessed technological capabilities that mainstream archaeology has been reluctant to acknowledge. Their palaces incorporated running water, sophisticated drainage systems, and architectural engineering that demonstrates knowledge of seismic construction techniques. Their ships controlled trade networks spanning thousands of miles, requiring navigation and shipbuilding expertise that historians assumed didn't develop until much later periods. Most disturbing is the evidence that Minoan engineers had developed construction methods for creating earthquake-resistant buildings in one of the world's most seismically active regions. Their architectural solutions to problems of structural stability wouldn't be rediscovered until modern seismology provided the scientific foundation for understanding ground motion and building response. The systematic dismissal of this evidence appears motivated by the implications for our understanding of technological progression. If Bronze Age civilizations possessed engineering knowledge that we assumed required centuries more development, then our models of human advancement are fundamentally flawed. Rather than steady progress from primitive to advanced, human knowledge appears to follow cycles of achievement and loss that challenge linear narratives of civilization. The pattern becomes even more pronounced when we examine evidence for ancient global trade networks that connected civilizations across vast distances long before such contact was supposed to be possible. Traditional historical models assumed that ancient peoples were limited to local or regional interactions, lacking the maritime technology and navigational knowledge required for transoceanic voyages. Archaeological discoveries have demolished these assumptions with evidence that ancient civilizations maintained regular contact across distances that supposedly couldn't be traversed until the age of European exploration. Chemical analysis of artifacts has revealed trade goods that traveled thousands of miles from their points of origin, requiring sophisticated logistics and navigation capabilities. The most compelling evidence comes from genetic analysis that shows human populations mixing across continental distances during time periods when such contact was considered impossible. DNA studies reveal that ancient peoples weren't isolated in regional populations, but participated in global networks of cultural and genetic exchange that spanned the entire planet. These discoveries suggest that our ancestors possessed maritime technology and navigational knowledge that enabled regular transoceanic travel centuries or even millennia before conventional history acknowledges such capabilities. The implications extend beyond simple corrections to maritime history into fundamental questions about the true extent of ancient technological achievement. The systematic suppression of this evidence appears designed to preserve academic reputations built on dismissing such possibilities rather than investigating them seriously. Careers have been constructed on debunking claims of ancient advanced technology, creating institutional resistance to acknowledging discoveries that prove those claims were actually accurate. What emerges from this pattern is a disturbing picture of deliberate historical amnesia, where evidence that challenges established narratives is quietly ignored rather than integrated into our understanding of human development. The result is a distorted view of our past that underestimates the achievements of ancient civilizations and overestimates the uniqueness of modern technological capabilities. The truth appears to be that human ingenuity and technological sophistication have reached remarkable heights multiple times throughout history, only to be lost through natural disasters, social collapse, or deliberate suppression by institutions that benefit from controlling access to knowledge. What we call mythology may actually be the preserved memory of capabilities that were once commonplace, but have been systematically erased from official historical records. These revelations force us to reconsider not just individual historical claims, but the entire framework through which we understand human development and technological progress. Rather than a steady climb from primitive to advanced, civilization appears to follow complex cycles of achievement and loss that leave behind only fragmentary evidence of capabilities that once transformed entire societies. The evidence becomes even more unsettling when we examine how certain discoveries have been deliberately buried or discredited to protect established academic theories. The systematic destruction of inconvenient evidence reveals a pattern of institutional control that extends far beyond simple scholarly disagreement into something approaching historical conspiracy. Consider the fate of researchers who dared to investigate claims that mainstream archaeology preferred to ignore. Time and again, scientists who pursued evidence of advanced ancient technologies found themselves facing career destruction, funding cuts, and professional ostracism that effectively silenced their work before it could challenge established narratives. The most revealing cases involve discoveries that were initially celebrated as breakthrough findings, only to be quietly reclassified or removed from public access when their implications became too threatening to conventional historical models. Museums have been known to relocate artifacts to storage facilities where they remain inaccessible to independent researchers, who might ask uncomfortable questions about their origins or significance. This institutional resistance becomes particularly pronounced when dealing with evidence of ancient metallurgical capabilities that shouldn't have existed for centuries. Traditional historical timelines assume that advanced metalworking techniques developed gradually through predictable stages, from simple copper tools to complex alloys requiring sophisticated furnace technology and precise temperature control. Archaeological discoveries have repeatedly shattered these assumptions with evidence of ancient metalworking that demonstrates knowledge of advanced chemistry and engineering. Sites across the globe have yielded metal artifacts whose composition and manufacturing techniques exceed what conventional history considers possible for their time periods. The most disturbing examples involve alloys that require precise control of temperatures and atmospheric conditions that supposedly weren't achieved until industrial-era metallurgy. Chemical analysis reveals metal compositions that incorporate rare elements in proportions that suggest sophisticated understanding of atomic properties and chemical bonding principles. Some ancient metal artifacts demonstrate manufacturing techniques that modern metallurgists struggle to replicate even with advanced industrial equipment. The precision of these ancient processes suggests that someone possessed knowledge of material science that we've only recently begun to understand through decades of scientific research and technological development. The systematic dismissal of this evidence appears motivated by the implications for our understanding of technological progression. If ancient civilizations possessed metallurgical knowledge that we assumed required centuries more development, then our entire framework for understanding human advancement collapses into meaningless speculation. But perhaps the most shocking revelations concern ancient knowledge of astronomy and mathematics that demonstrates understanding of concepts we credit to much later scientific developments. Traditional academic timelines assume that sophisticated mathematical principles and astronomical observations required the gradual accumulation of knowledge through centuries of systematic study. Archaeological evidence suggests that ancient civilizations possessed mathematical and astronomical knowledge that rivals or exceeds modern understanding in certain areas. Stone monuments incorporate geometric relationships and astronomical alignments that demonstrate precise knowledge of celestial mechanics and mathematical principles that weren't supposed to be discovered until much later periods. The precision of these ancient calculations exceeds what should be possible without advanced mathematical tools and sophisticated observational instruments. The accuracy of astronomical predictions embedded in ancient structures suggests that someone possessed detailed knowledge of planetary orbits, precession cycles, and celestial mechanics that modern astronomy has only recently confirmed through space-based observations. Most disturbing is the evidence that this knowledge appears in multiple ancient civilizations simultaneously, suggesting either independent discovery of the same advanced principles or contact between cultures that shared sophisticated scientific understanding across vast geographical distances. The mathematical sophistication demonstrated in ancient constructions incorporates concepts that modern mathematics considers highly advanced. The geometric relationships and proportional systems used in these structures demonstrate understanding of irrational numbers, advanced trigonometry, and geometric principles that weren't formally developed until much later periods. Recent analysis using advanced computer modeling has revealed that ancient architects incorporated structural engineering principles that anticipate modern understanding of load distribution, seismic stability, and materials science. Their solutions to complex engineering problems demonstrate knowledge that we assumed required centuries of accumulated scientific development. The systematic suppression of this evidence extends beyond academic reluctance into active discrediting of researchers who pursue these investigations. Scientists who publish findings that challenge conventional timelines face professional retaliation that effectively ends their careers and prevents further research into these anomalous discoveries. The pattern suggests that powerful institutional interests benefit from maintaining historical narratives that minimize ancient technological capabilities, while maximizing the perceived achievements of modern civilization. The resulting distortion of historical understanding serves to justify current power structures by portraying technological advancement as a recent development rather than a recurring pattern throughout human history. What emerges from this evidence is a picture of cyclical human development, where advanced knowledge and sophisticated technology appear repeatedly throughout history, only to be lost through natural disasters, social collapse, or deliberate suppression by institutions that benefit from controlling access to information. The implications extend far beyond academic historical debates into fundamental questions about the nature of human potential and the true extent of ancient achievements. If our ancestors possessed knowledge and capabilities that we've systematically erased from historical records, then our understanding of human development is not just incomplete, but actively misleading. These discoveries suggest that what we dismiss as mythology may actually represent preserved memories of technological capabilities that were once commonplace, but have been deliberately forgotten to serve the interests of institutions that profit from artificial scarcity and technological dependence. The evidence forces us to consider that human civilization may have achieved remarkable heights of knowledge and capability multiple times throughout history, only to have those achievements systematically erased to protect economic and political structures built on the assumption of technological scarcity and human limitation. The pattern of suppression becomes even more apparent when examining how certain archaeological discoveries are handled by official institutions versus independent researchers. Government agencies and established academic institutions consistently downplay or reclassify findings that suggest advanced ancient capabilities, while independent investigators who pursue these discoveries face systematic harassment and discrediting. The most revealing cases involve sites where initial excavations revealed anomalous artifacts or structures that didn't fit conventional historical timelines. Rather than investigating these discoveries thoroughly, official archaeology often restricts access to the sites and classifies the findings in ways that prevent further research or public awareness. This institutional control extends to the publication and dissemination of archaeological findings. Research that challenges established historical narratives faces systematic rejection from mainstream academic journals, effectively preventing the scientific community from evaluating evidence that might revolutionize our understanding of ancient capabilities. The result is a distorted historical record that systematically underestimates ancient achievements while overestimating the uniqueness of modern technological developments. This distortion serves specific institutional interests by maintaining narratives that justify current power structures and economic systems built on assumptions of technological scarcity. The evidence suggests that human knowledge and technological sophistication have reached extraordinary heights repeatedly throughout history, only to be lost through cycles of destruction and deliberate suppression that leave behind only fragmentary evidence of capabilities that once transformed entire civilizations. These revelations challenge not just individual historical claims, but the entire framework through which we understand human development, technological progress, and the true extent of ancient achievements that have been systematically erased from our collective memory. Collective memory. The systematic erasure of inconvenient historical evidence reaches its most disturbing manifestation in cases where entire civilizations have been written out of existence to preserve comfortable academic assumptions. The pattern reveals itself most clearly when examining cultures that possessed capabilities so advanced they threaten the fundamental narratives upon which modern institutional authority depends. Archaeological discoveries across multiple continents have uncovered evidence of sophisticated urban planning and architectural engineering that demonstrates knowledge supposedly unavailable until much later historical periods. These aren't isolated anomalies or questionable interpretations of ambiguous remains. These are massive construction projects that required advanced mathematical understanding, precision manufacturing capabilities, and organizational systems that coordinated the labor of thousands of workers across decades of sustained effort. The most compelling examples involve water management systems that demonstrate understanding of hydraulic engineering principles that weren't formally developed until the Renaissance. Ancient cities incorporated complex networks of underground channels, pressure-regulated distribution systems, and waste treatment facilities that operated on principles modern engineers struggle to replicate without advanced computational modeling and precision machinery. Chemical analysis of ancient concrete and mortar reveals compositions that incorporate additives and binding agents that create materials more durable than modern equivalents. Some ancient structures have survived millennia of seismic activity and environmental stress that would destroy contemporary buildings within decades. The longevity of these constructions suggests manufacturing knowledge that surpasses current industrial capabilities. But the evidence extends beyond individual technological achievements into systematic proof of global communication networks that connected ancient civilizations across distances that supposedly couldn't be traversed until the age of European maritime expansion. Linguistic analysis has revealed shared vocabularies and grammatical structures between cultures separated by thousands of miles of ocean, indicating regular contact and cultural exchange during periods when such interaction was considered impossible. The most startling discoveries involve identical architectural solutions appearing simultaneously in civilizations that had no supposed contact with each other. Pyramid construction techniques, astronomical alignment systems, and mathematical proportional relationships appear across multiple continents during the same historical periods, suggesting either impossible coincidence or sophisticated global communication systems that have been systematically erased from historical records. DNA analysis has confirmed that ancient human populations participated in genetic mixing patterns that require regular transoceanic travel and sustained cultural contact. The genetic evidence demonstrates that our ancestors weren't isolated in regional populations, but maintained global networks of interaction that spanned entire continents during periods when such contact was supposedly impossible. Recent discoveries have revealed that certain ancient sites incorporate knowledge of geographical features that shouldn't have been accessible without advanced surveying techniques and global mapping capabilities. Stone monuments contain accurate representations of continental coastlines, mountain ranges, and river systems located thousands of miles from their construction sites, suggesting access to geographical information that required systematic exploration and documentation efforts. The precision of ancient maps carved into stone structures demonstrates knowledge of longitude and latitude systems that weren't supposed to be developed until much later periods. These geographical representations incorporate corrections for Earth curvature and projection distortions that indicate understanding of advanced cartographic principles and spherical geometry. Maritime archaeological discoveries have uncovered evidence of ancient shipbuilding techniques that enabled construction of vessels capable of sustained ocean voyages. Hull designs, sail configurations, and navigation equipment found in ancient wrecks demonstrate technological sophistication that supposedly didn't exist until medieval or Renaissance periods. The systematic suppression of this evidence appears designed to maintain historical narratives that support current economic and political structures by portraying advanced technology as a recent development rather than a recurring pattern throughout human history. The implications of acknowledging ancient global civilization would undermine fundamental assumptions about technological progress and human development that justify existing institutional arrangements. Professional archaeologists who pursue investigations into ancient advanced capabilities face systematic career destruction that effectively silences research before it can challenge established narratives. Funding sources disappear, academic positions are terminated, and publication opportunities vanish for researchers whose work threatens conventional historical timelines. The pattern extends into active destruction of physical evidence that contradicts approved historical models. Archaeological sites containing anomalous artifacts are frequently restricted from public access or subjected to excavation techniques that destroy rather than preserve inconvenient discoveries. Museums relocate controversial artifacts to storage facilities where they remain inaccessible to independent researchers who might ask uncomfortable questions. Document analysis has revealed cases where archaeological reports were systematically edited to remove references to discoveries that didn't conform to expected findings. Original excavation records contain descriptions of artifacts and structures that were subsequently deleted from published accounts, leaving only sanitized versions that support conventional interpretations. The most disturbing cases involve the deliberate destruction of ancient texts and inscriptions that contained knowledge considered too dangerous for public awareness. Historical records document systematic campaigns to eliminate written materials that preserved technical information about advanced ancient capabilities. This institutional control extends to the interpretation and presentation of archaeological discoveries that can't be completely suppressed. Findings that demonstrate ancient advanced technology are consistently reinterpreted in ways that minimize their implications or attribute them to later cultural contamination rather than acknowledging their true significance. The result is a historical record that has been systematically distorted to serve specific institutional interests rather than preserve accurate knowledge about human development and ancient achievements. The scale of this distortion suggests coordinated efforts to maintain ignorance about capabilities that were once commonplace but have been deliberately forgotten. Educational systems perpetuate these distortions by teaching historical narratives that systematically underestimate ancient achievements while overemphasizing the uniqueness of modern technological developments. Students learn timelines and progressions that have been carefully constructed to support specific assumptions about human development rather than reflect actual evidence. The implications extend far beyond academic historical debates into fundamental questions about the nature of technological progress and human potential. If ancient civilizations possessed capabilities that have been systematically erased from historical records, then our understanding of what humans can achieve is artificially constrained by deliberate ignorance. Recent technological developments in archaeological investigation have begun to reveal the true extent of ancient achievements despite institutional resistance to acknowledging their implications. Advanced imaging techniques, chemical analysis methods, and computer modeling capabilities are uncovering evidence that can no longer be dismissed or reinterpreted to fit conventional narratives. Satellite archaeology has identified massive ancient structures that were previously unknown or misunderstood. Ground-penetrating radar and other remote sensing technologies are revealing the true scale and sophistication of ancient construction projects that dwarf anything attempted by modern civilization. Digital reconstruction techniques are demonstrating that ancient architectural and engineering solutions incorporated principles that modern science is only beginning to understand. Computer analysis reveals that ancient builders possessed knowledge of structural mechanics, materials, science, and environmental engineering that exceeds current capabilities in many areas. The mounting evidence suggests that human civilization has achieved extraordinary heights of knowledge and technological sophistication repeatedly throughout history, only to lose those achievements through cycles of destruction and systematic suppression that serve the interests of institutions that benefit from artificial scarcity and technological dependence. These discoveries force us to reconsider fundamental assumptions about human development, technological progress, and the true extent of ancient capabilities that have been deliberately erased from our collective understanding. What we dismiss as impossible mythology may actually represent preserved memories of achievements that were systematically destroyed to maintain power structures built on the assumption of human limitation and technological scarcity. The pattern of suppression reveals itself most clearly in cases where evidence threatens to demonstrate that problems we consider uniquely modern were actually solved by ancient civilizations, using methods that have been deliberately forgotten. Energy generation, environmental management, medical treatment, and transportation systems that we struggle to develop may represent rediscovery of capabilities that were once widespread but have been systematically erased from historical records. The implications suggest that human potential extends far beyond current limitations, and that the constraints we accept as natural may actually be artificial restrictions imposed to serve institutional interests that benefit from maintaining technological dependence and resource scarcity. The evidence points toward a deliberately constrained understanding of human capability that serves specific economic and political structures, rather than reflecting actual limitations on what humans can achieve. These revelations challenge not just individual historical claims, but the entire framework through which we understand civilization, progress, and human potential itself. Potential itself. The most disturbing revelation emerges when we examine how ancient civilizations possessed medical knowledge that modern science has only recently begun to understand. For centuries, medical historians dismissed accounts of sophisticated surgical procedures and therapeutic treatments as primitive superstition or exaggerated folklore. The assumption was that effective medical intervention required sterile environments, precision instruments, and scientific understanding that developed gradually through centuries of accumulated knowledge. Archaeological evidence has shattered these comfortable assumptions with discoveries that reveal ancient medical capabilities rivaling or exceeding modern standards. Surgical instruments recovered from prehistoric sites demonstrate manufacturing precision that suggests advanced metallurgical knowledge and understanding of human anatomy that shouldn't have existed without centuries of systematic study and experimentation. The most shocking discoveries involve evidence of successful cataract surgery, organ transplantation, and complex orthopedic procedures performed thousands of years before such operations were supposed to be possible. Skeletal remains show healed fractures that required sophisticated knowledge of bone setting and immobilization techniques. The precision of ancient surgical interventions suggests medical expertise that was systematically developed and refined over generations. Chemical analysis of ancient pharmaceutical preparations has revealed drug compounds that incorporate active ingredients. Modern medicine has only recently identified as therapeutically effective. These weren't random herbal remedies based on superstitious beliefs. They were carefully formulated medications that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of biochemistry and pharmacological principles. The systematic suppression of this evidence appears motivated by the implications for modern medical authority and pharmaceutical industry profits. If ancient civilizations possessed medical knowledge that enabled effective treatment of conditions modern medicine struggles to address, then current healthcare systems lose their claims to uniqueness and necessity. Professional medical historians who investigate ancient therapeutic capabilities face systematic career destruction that effectively prevents research into medical knowledge that might challenge contemporary treatment paradigms. Funding disappears for studies that might reveal ancient medical achievements, while publication opportunities vanish for researchers whose work threatens established medical narratives. The pattern extends into active discrediting of archaeological discoveries that demonstrate ancient medical sophistication. Sites containing evidence of advanced surgical procedures are frequently restricted from investigation, while artifacts that suggest sophisticated pharmaceutical knowledge are relegated to storage facilities, where they remain inaccessible to independent analysis. Document analysis reveals cases where medical historical accounts were systematically edited to remove references to ancient therapeutic successes that couldn't be explained by conventional understanding of medical development. Original sources contain descriptions of surgical techniques and pharmaceutical preparations that were subsequently deleted from published versions to maintain approved narratives about medical progress. The implications suggest that effective medical treatments for conditions considered incurable by modern medicine may have been systematically eliminated to protect economic structures built on artificial medical scarcity. The deliberate erasure of ancient medical knowledge serves institutional interests that profit from maintaining dependency on expensive treatments rather than acknowledging effective therapies that were once widely available. Educational medical curricula perpetuate these distortions by teaching historical progressions that systematically minimize ancient medical achievements, while emphasizing the supposed impossibility of effective treatment without modern scientific understanding. Students learn timelines that have been constructed to support specific assumptions about medical development, rather than reflect actual evidence of ancient therapeutic capabilities. Recent technological advances in archaeological investigation are beginning to reveal the true extent of ancient medical knowledge despite institutional resistance. Advanced chemical analysis techniques are identifying pharmaceutical compounds in ancient preparations that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of medicinal chemistry. Computer modeling of ancient surgical procedures reveals techniques that modern surgeons are only beginning to appreciate. The mounting evidence suggests that human medical knowledge has reached extraordinary heights repeatedly throughout history, only to be systematically suppressed and forgotten to serve institutions that benefit from artificial medical scarcity and therapeutic dependence. What we consider cutting-edge medical science may actually represent rediscovery of capabilities that were systematically destroyed. The pattern becomes even more pronounced when examining ancient energy generation systems that demonstrate understanding of principles modern science claims to have recently discovered. Traditional historical models assume that sophisticated energy production required industrial-era technology and scientific knowledge that developed through centuries of systematic experimentation and theoretical development. Archaeological discoveries have uncovered evidence of energy generation systems that operated on principles supposedly unknown until modern physics provided the theoretical foundation for understanding electromagnetic phenomena and thermodynamic relationships. Ancient devices demonstrate capabilities that challenge fundamental assumptions about the progression of scientific knowledge. The most compelling examples involve electromagnetic generators and power distribution systems that enabled sustained electrical supply to entire urban centers. Physical evidence reveals sophisticated understanding of magnetic field manipulation and electrical circuit design that incorporates principles. Modern electrical engineering has only recently formalized through decades of theoretical development. Chemical analysis of ancient battery systems reveals electrolyte compositions and electrode configurations that demonstrate knowledge of electrochemical principles that weren't supposed to be understood until much later periods. These weren't simple galvanic cells producing minimal current. They were sophisticated power generation systems capable of sustained electrical output. Architectural evidence reveals electrical distribution networks that supplied power to lighting systems, heating installations, and mechanical devices throughout ancient urban complexes. The sophistication of these electrical systems suggests systematic understanding of power generation, transmission, and utilization that rivals modern electrical infrastructure. The systematic suppression of this evidence appears designed to protect economic structures built on artificial energy scarcity and technological dependence. If ancient civilizations possessed energy generation capabilities that provided abundant power without environmental destruction, then current energy industries lose their claims to necessity and legitimacy. Professional physicists and engineers who investigate ancient energy systems face systematic career destruction that prevents research into technologies that might challenge contemporary energy paradigms. Academic institutions refuse to support studies that might reveal energy generation methods that threaten established industrial interests. The pattern extends into active destruction of physical evidence that demonstrates ancient energy capabilities. Archaeological sites containing electromagnetic devices are frequently subjected to excavation techniques that destroy rather than preserve the sophisticated machinery. Museums relocate electrical artifacts to storage facilities, where they remain inaccessible to independent analysis. Recent technological advances in archaeological investigation are revealing energy generation systems that operated on principles modern science is only beginning to understand. Advanced imaging techniques are identifying electromagnetic components in ancient devices that suggest knowledge of field theory and energy conversion that exceeds current capabilities in certain applications. The implications suggest that sustainable energy solutions for problems modern civilization struggles to address may have been systematically eliminated to protect economic structures built on artificial energy scarcity. The deliberate erasure of ancient energy knowledge serves institutional interests that profit from maintaining dependency on destructive energy sources, rather than acknowledging clean technologies that were once widely available. These discoveries force us to reconsider fundamental assumptions about technological development and the true extent of ancient scientific knowledge. Rather than steady progress from primitive to advanced, human understanding appears to follow cycles of achievement and systematic suppression that serve specific institutional interests rather than human advancement. The evidence points toward deliberately constrained scientific understanding that maintains technological dependence and resource scarcity to serve economic and political structures rather than reflecting actual limitations on what humans can achieve. What we consider impossible based on conventional scientific models may actually represent capabilities that were systematically destroyed to prevent human liberation from artificial constraints. The pattern of suppression reveals itself most clearly in cases where ancient achievements threaten to demonstrate that fundamental problems modern civilization claims to be solving were actually resolved long ago using methods that have been deliberately forgotten. The systematic erasure of ancient knowledge serves institutions that benefit from maintaining ignorance about human potential rather than acknowledging capabilities that were once commonplace but have been artificially eliminated. These 10 revelations represent more than historical corrections. They expose a systematic pattern where evidence that challenges comfortable assumptions gets buried, discredited, or reinterpreted beyond recognition. From unicorns that turned out to be massive prehistoric rhinos to ancient computers that shouldn't have existed for another 1,000 years. Each discovery forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth about human knowledge and institutional control. What emerges isn't just that our ancestors were more capable than we imagined. It's that powerful interests have consistently worked to maintain narratives that minimize ancient achievements while maximizing the perceived uniqueness of modern capabilities. This serves specific economic and political structures that benefit from artificial scarcity and technological dependence. The pattern is unmistakable. Revolutionary discoveries get quietly filed away. Researchers who investigate inconvenient evidence face career destruction. Archaeological sites containing anomalous artifacts become mysteriously inaccessible. Ancient texts that preserve advanced knowledge get systematically destroyed or reinterpreted into harmless mythology. The implications extend far beyond academic debates into fundamental questions about human potential itself. If civilizations repeatedly achieved extraordinary heights of knowledge only to have those achievements erased, then our understanding of what humans can accomplish has been artificially constrained by deliberate ignorance. These myths that turned out to be true aren't just fascinating historical footnotes. They're evidence that the constraints we accept as natural limitations may actually be imposed restrictions designed to serve institutional interests rather than human advancement. The real question isn't what other myths might be true, but what truths are being systematically hidden to maintain systems built on the assumption of human limitation and technological scarcity. Human potential may extend far beyond what we're allowed to imagine.